Ever since I was little, there was something about going fast that I found to be really appealing. Growing up, some of my favorite games of the Sonic and Twisted Metal series. Doom and arena shooters also became personal favorites of mine. Heck, my favorite superhero since childhood was, and still is, The Flash. I think this all primed me for a game that I instantly became addicted to. That game would be the free-to-play shooter, Tribes Ascend. The 5th game in the Tribes series and the 7th of the Air Siege universe, the Tribes series is a very unique brand of first-person shooter. Arena shooters like Quake and Unreal Tournament are known for being a lot faster than the slow gunplay of today's shooters, but Tribes took that to a whole new level. In the Tribes games, every player is equipped with a jetpack and the ability to slide around a map, or ski as it's called. It's a rather unique, though a bit strange way to move around a map, but you'll eventually get used to it, and it'll feel as natural as any other game you played once you do.
Knew it! That freaking idiot's going in way too fast! There's no room to slow down, he's going into that guardrail! Inertia drift?
Since the series has always given players so much speed and air control, the main focus of these games has always been its capture the flag mode. Now, I will admit that Ascend was my first Tribes game. I really wish I heard about this series sooner because once you play Tribes, no other first-person shooter feels similar. In fact, the Tribes series is so different that it created its own subgenre dubbed FPSZ due to the radical differences in the way players move around in the air, or Z-axis. Unlike most first-person shooters where shooting an enemy is as simple as turning on iron sights and moving your crosshair next to a slow-moving player, in Tribes, your enemy could be moving at 200 miles an hour and in the sky. Not only that, but most of the weapons in Tribes are projectiles, so you even have to predict the direction of your enemies rather than simply putting your crosshair over them. This definitely takes some getting used to if you're used to a more traditional style of shooting from other games. For players who preferred things a little slower though, the game had different armor classes. The heavy armor classes generally focused on base defense or assault. One of the classes I found to be the most fun in Ascend was the Doombringer. Put your body near a flag, and if an enemy player runs into you, they take damage based on their speed. Hearing a player crack like an egg after traveling 200 miles an hour, right into the wall that is your body, was one of the most satisfying things I've felt in a game. There are also classes like the Juggernaut who, if ever made it into the enemy base, were almost impossible to get out. Even the snipers in this game were useful. Tribes is seriously the only shooter that I could think of where I ever complained to my team that we didn't have enough snipers, because in this game, snipers are useful for defending the base and killing flag poachers. So with all this in mind, it makes sense that when the game went into open beta in February of 2012, that it would quickly stand out from the crowd and find an audience. It's probably also no surprise that the game first gained popularity with the cool kids on 4chan's video game board, since, like me, they too have always enjoyed going fast. Anything that gets popular on 4chan will eventually get popular on Reddit too. These sites would spread and produce tons of Tribes edits and images across the internet. But Ascend's community wasn't exclusive to just these sites either. Other gaming forums such as Facepunch had multiple popular Tribes Ascend threads as well. The Ascend community was willing to help teach new players the basics of this unique game about jetpacks and skis.
Stand on the flag. Wait, don't stand on the flag. You're sitting duck standing on the flag.
Ascend's beta wasn't perfect though. It was pretty unbalanced and a lot of things weren't finalized yet, but its new yet loyal fans were willing to stick with the game. For the developer Hi-Rez Entertainment, a company previously known for their game Global Agenda, all they had to do was keep its fanbase happy. Of course, given the title of this video, you know they probably couldn't manage that. In April of 2012, Tribes Ascend was released, but the game still had quite a few issues. Balance still wasn't perfect, with some of the classes being almost useless and some of the weapons being far better than others. The weapon balance issue is made even greater by the fact that in order to unlock new weapons in this game would take hours and hours of grinding. Even if you bought an item in the store which would permanently increase the rate at which you gained in-game money, it would still take days to unlock a single weapon. When most of the good guns, as in objectively better, are behind a grind/paywall, accusations of pay to win start to fly. Though I personally just think Hi-Rez was horrible at balance, rather than purposely designing the game to be pay to win. These weren't the only problems though. As you recall, Tribes is a series about going fast. Many players figured out ways to go extremely fast. So fast that it became hard for defenders to stop someone from bringing a flag back to their base once they caught it. So Hi-Rez decided to put a cap on the total possible speed in the game. This decision angered a lot of players who specifically played the game because they liked being able to go so fast. Many players also didn't like the changes the devs made to some of the maps as updates went by. This would lead to what I would consider to be the single dumbest move a developer of a game has ever done, at least in my opinion. In response to the player base not liking changes to the popular map Gamma Omega, the developers decided to take the map out of the game. Not so they would have time to fix it and put it back on, but permanently and as an act of revenge against the player base who criticized it. Yes, they said so themselves.
That was graceful.
The hostility between the developers and the player base got to the point where the Tribe subreddit even considered banning all Hi-Rez employees from their forum, due in part to insulting comments two Hi-Rez employees made to the community. With Hi-Rez clearly not being able to keep their player base happy and the game not making them enough money, they decided to jump onto the MOBA bandwagon, which was popular at the time. So in March of 2013, they dropped support for Tribes Ascend and moved on to the game Smite, which they probably figured would have a player base which would be easier to please. This means that Tribes Ascend was dropped by Hi-Rez less than a year after it was released. For an online free-to-play game, that is basically in the blink of an eye. Years later, and the game still has a few dedicated players who still play the game every now and then, but it's definitely nowhere near the levels it once had. Eventually, Hi-Rez actually openly admitted they messed up with Tribes, in posts detailing their failings where they admit that their balance and grind to get weapons caused many players to leave the game. The Tribes games still have a fanbase who remember how good it felt to go fast. Because of this, the future of the FPSZ genre isn't completely bleak. A group of old Tribes fans are developing a game similar to the Tribes series. The game called Midair had a successful Kickstarter campaign in June of 2016, and since then, it's been given update after update on a fairly consistent basis. The game just hit Steam Early Access, and will eventually have an open beta where from then on, it'll be free to play. What you're currently seeing is alpha gameplay of the game. It's pretty early and the visuals aren't finalized, but as someone who is generally skeptical of early access and Kickstarter games, I will admit that the team behind this, while small, seems very dedicated to creating their dream Tribes game. I guess we'll just have to wait and see if the game takes off like the series it was based on, or if the developers make the same mistakes as Hi-Rez. As someone who wants to feel the thrill of speed again, I'm putting a lot of hope into this project, and if it turns out to be good, I hope to see you speed-loving Shazbots there too.